Hey, what's up guys? Sloth King here. Today we're going to be working on this 2009 Mustang and we're going to be replacing the rear brake pads and rotors. This will work on years 2005 to 2014. So let me go ahead and put the car on jack stands. Let me show you what we're going to need and let's dig into this. Alright, first things first, you will need a jack, some jack stands, and some wheel chocks. This will prevent the car from rolling forward whenever you have it up in the air. I recommend having a light, a turkey baster if we need to get any brake fluid out, a caliper hanger to hang our caliper so that way it doesn't dangle. I do recommend getting an assortment of brushes so that way if you have any corrosion, we can brush it off. An impact gun does help taking off a lot of the bolts. It's not required. I'm using it today to save time. Definitely need some rags. You need some brake parts cleaner. You need some grease. So this will be to lubricate the pads on the shims. And then you can also use this type of grease as well for the slide pins on the caliper. I'll show you that later. You might need a caliper tool set. You can rent this at your local auto parts store. Some of these calipers, instead of just getting pushed in to push the piston in, so that way the caliper can slide on when we put new brake pads on. Sometimes they don't push in. Sometimes they need to rotate and push in. So to do that, you need like the right tool or you need a big pair of pliers so you can grab it, twist, and push in. We're gonna see if we need that today. I'm not too sure. I forget on these calipers. Next, we're gonna need an assortment of ratchets and sockets. For the big stuff like getting the lug nuts on and off, I recommend using 1/2-inch sockets. I recommend getting yourself a 3/8 ratchet set just for any tight bolts that we're gonna need to take off. We need some type of big hammer because if our rotors are stuck on, we need to hammer them so that way they can get loose. And then finally, we need a torque wrench so that way we can torque down our caliper bracket, our caliper, and our wheel lug nuts. And then of course, your desired parts that you will need for your vehicle. So get whatever you're gonna need. All right, and that's all you're gonna need. If you guys don't know where the jacking points are, I can show you real quick on the car and then we can get this up in the air. All right, before we jack up the vehicle, it's always good to loosen your lug nuts while the car is on the ground. All right, with those loose, let's go ahead and put the car up in the air. All right, let's go ahead and chock our front wheels. Now the car will not roll forward. The jacking point on this Mustang for the rear will be our rear differential. This is completely safe to lift by. A lot of people will tell you, do not lift by it. It is fragile, blah, blah, blah. That is not true. You learn this in shop class. This is where they tell you to lift vehicles. If it was fragile, they would tell you not to lift it there. All right, that is plenty high enough. Now we're gonna place our jack stands on our pinch welds. I'll show you that in a second. All right, so our pinch weld on the rear, if you look right underneath our side skirt here, you will see our pinch weld. It is fragile here, and then it is completely reinforced. Right here, you can see the cutout. This means you can rest your jack stands right here. This is the reinforced part of the pinch weld. If you put your jack stand here, it is not as reinforced and it can bend your pinch welds. So if you put on the reinforced part, you'll be fine. They have this in the owner's manual as well, or the repair manual. Place your jack stand under. Now we're gonna count up. 2. We can't go anymore. Make sure the other side is mirrored as best as possible. We want the car to be level. If it's not, if it's one click up, it's not gonna be the end of the world, but try to make the same clicks that you hear, the height of this, the same on the other side. Now we can go ahead and slowly lower the vehicle on here. Just like that. All right, before we're done, we're just gonna lightly push, or actually just push on the car. If it doesn't move, we're safe to start working on it. Always double check your wheel chocks. If they moved at all, secure them. But if they did move, make sure that you might need to take a hammer and just hammer them underneath the wheels so it gets gripped. I don't know why I said it like that. It gets gripped. So that way it doesn't slide forward. All right, now let's go ahead and start replacing this stuff. Also, as an added safety measure, you can see how there's a gap right there on the jack itself to the differential. You can just barely put the jack underneath the differential. Don't like lift it up, but keep it there as a secondary safety precaution. We're also going to put the wheels underneath by the jack stand. So if the car does slide or fall off, the wheels will catch it, or just this jack will also catch it. All right, let's go ahead and remove the wheel. There we go. There's our third line of defense for safety. All right, so for the caliper slide pin right here, these two, this is going to be a 13 millimeter. Oh, looks like this part of the parking brake is in the way. It's all right though, we shall work around it. These ones really aren't on that tight, so. Well, I say that now and geez, it's a bit tight. All right. Top one's out. Bottom one's out, and then now we can go ahead and just slide this off. All right, took the brake pad with it. See, this is the type of caliper that has that groove in it. See right here? This is the one that you're gonna have to twist and push in at the same time. We'll get to that here shortly. But for now, let's go ahead and just take our hanger right here and just hang it on the side right up here. Let me, you'll probably get it by the parking brake mechanism, maybe. Actually, I don't think this one's gonna play very nice, so we can actually just move it right there. There's no tension on the brake line, parking brake, that's good. So it can stay right here. You don't need the hanger, as long as it's not putting weight on it. Next, let's go ahead and take off these brake pads and check them out. All right, so the pads, keep in mind the orientation. Oh, yep, those were getting pretty low. There is a wear indicator on here somewhere. Might be on the outside. Usually it's on the inside. I don't see it. But that is very low. Next, let's go ahead and take off our bracket, which the 2 bolts are going to be located right here and right here. One is loose. There's the other one. All right, the bracket is off. Now we can go ahead and just pull off the rotor. It is nice and loose. And there we go. Rotor is off. From here, you'll probably see some corrosion or some gunk. Just take your wire brush, go all the way over this whole entire face. Just clean this whole thing up. Get as much of this gunk off as possible. And then we'll deal with the rest when I am done with this. All right, since we focused on this so much, let's go ahead and add a little bit of our lube on here so that way our new rotor does not rust or stick on, you know, just like to eliminate any corrosion. You don't need a whole lot. You can also use some like copper anti-seize. You can get a spray and just spray it on. You don't need a lot. You just need like a thin coat. Just go over the face of this. Don't get it on the threads on the lug nuts or the studs. If you do, just wipe it off. It's not the end of the world. Just make sure that you don't have any on whenever you put your lug nuts on, or they will not get torqued down properly. All right, and since I'm not perfect, I did get some on one of these studs. There we go. Now we can focus on the new rotor and brake pads. All right, here is our new rotor. Oh, and there's dirt on here because I put the old rotor on top to make sure it was the same size. Before we install this, usually there's a light coat of grease that comes on the rotor from the factory. We're just going to spray some brake parts cleaner on it and then wipe it off. You don't want that grease transferring to the pad. Do it on the back side. And if you notice, this does have a finish on the whole entire rotor that is completely fine. It was $2 more to get a fully coated rotor to prevent any rust from building up on it. So they usually throw that same coating on the face of it. If you get the Posi-Quiet centric brake pads, these have a red layer on it that removes this finish on it within your first braking process. So after that, you can actually bed your brakes in. It will just completely take this off without damaging the rotor or embedding some stuff in your pads. So if you got the extra money, I highly recommend getting the full coated rotor. If not, at least get the hat that's coated, because it'll be like the front face and then the bottom face, and it'll prevent any corrosion that will make the rotor get stuck on the hub or your wheel itself. Now that this is clean, let's go ahead and pop it on. All right, and since we're not ready to throw the caliper bracket on yet, we're just going to put one lug nut on just to keep this thing in place so it doesn't just bounce around and all that stuff. There we go. Now let's go ahead and prep our caliper bracket and then get our brake pads on it. All right, so our brake pads came with some new hardware. so we don't have to worry about reusing and cleaning up the old stuff. On here, you'll see these shims right here. This is your hardware. Take that off. Take the bottom one off. Grab some brake parts cleaner. Spray it on there. Get your brush. And just scrub any extra gunk that's built up on here. Scrub all that off. All right, wipe that off and do the other side too. There we go. Last thing to clean on here are our slide pins. So if we grab this boot, just pull that out. You see that this is some old grease. We're just going to take this end, slide that off, put it in a rag, put some brake parts cleaner on it. There we go. That's clean. If you have a small pipe, like a pipe cleaner, you can put it in here, clean out any gunk or whatever that's inside of here. And then we're gonna do the same thing to this bottom one. Now you can use this grease on the slide pins, or you can use any other slide pin grease or whatever. Just go ahead, put a little bit on. This grease is totally safe with boots, like these boots that we took off. So after you lube this up, pop this back on, put this back in here. Make sure it moves freely, and do the same thing with this one. Let's go ahead and open up our new hardware. Grab our 2 plates. Just follow the indentation and then just pop these on. There's one. See, it looks like stairs. There we go, that's nice and secured. The last thing to do with this is just take some of our lube right here. Not a whole lot. And then we're going to put it on our contact points right here. This will make it so that way the brake pad will easily slide back and forth on here and it won't get corroded. We don't need a whole lot, just enough to coat it. And then now we can go ahead and throw this back on. All right, so I meant to mention that whenever we throw this on, just put a little bit of red Loctite on our caliper bolts. You don't need a lot, just a dab. And then now we can go ahead and reinstall these. I'll get that one started and then I'll get the second one after. I tried taking some of the previous yellow Loctite that they used off. It didn't really come off that well. All right, so now I'm gonna get that snug and then we're going to torque it down to 79 foot-pounds. All right, now we are going to torque this down to 79 foot-pounds. There's one. And there's two. Now we can go ahead and install our brake pads, and we're almost done here. All right, so as far as brake pads go, we're going to install it so that way this little hook guy faces out like that. But first we need to put a little bit of our grease on this contact point right here. You're gonna see an ear here and one here. Yes, I did say ear. Put that on there. Do not let this get on the brake pad itself. And then we're going to put a little bit on the backside, but after we install it. Oop. That fell off. Got a little bit of the grease on the rotor, but that is okay. We can clean it up after. Slide that on there like that. It literally just slides on. And then let's get a little bit of brake parts cleaner. Take that grease off. All right, do the same thing on this one. Let's put it straight on. There we go. And now we can prep this caliper. So on the caliper itself, you're gonna see these two ears right here and then the piston. So on this part of the brake pad over here, we're going to put grease where these two ears would sit. And then in the middle section here, we're gonna put grease on this part of the pad, right where the piston would butt up against. And that will prevent any corrosion on the back of the pad to the caliper itself. We don't need a whole lot, just enough to keep things nice and lubricated. All right, so let's tackle this this caliper. This is the tricky part. So this is where one of our tools would come into play. There's two slots cut out here. In here, there's two slots right here. We're just gonna line it up and make sure that it can sit on there just fine. So now that we know that part of the tool fits, we're gonna grab our tool here, connect it, and then we're going to drive this piston in. Before we do that, we have to open up our brake reservoir so that way the fluid can come back through a lot easier. All right, there we go. Now let's go ahead and push this piston through. And then after this, we can just reinstall the caliper and then we'll be good to go. And you also want to make sure that these two slots, whenever you're done pushing the piston in, that these two slots stay in a upward motion, so that way the caliper can slide onto the back of the pad. Because on the back of the pad, there's a little bit of pin, there's a little itty bitty pin on it that rests inside of this piston right here. There we go. This one might be a little tricky to do, but just keep going at it. And you'll eventually get it. Okay, after an eternity of pushing that thing in, let's go ahead and see if it will slide right on over our brake pads. And make sure you turn your caliper slide pins. There's a flat side, I forgot to mention, and it butts up right against the inside of here. So there we go. And then now we can go ahead and put our 2 bolts in here. And then those get torqued down to 29 foot-pounds. I'll double check that. All right, these get torqued to 24 foot-pounds, not 29. Oh, well, let's see if I can, hopefully I can fit this torque wrench back here. All right, that one's done. There we go, all done. And then last thing you need to do is throw the wheel back on, torque the lug nuts down to 100 foot-pounds, and then go bed in your brakes and you're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side, but it's mirrored, so we are completely done with this. So I'll see you when I'm done with that side. All right, guys, and I'm all done. The caliper, putting the piston in, was probably the hardest part of this whole job, and it was the most time consuming. But after you put pressure on it and you turn the tool, it eventually started going in. So besides that, it was a very straightforward thing to do. And hopefully you guys liked this video. If you did, awesome. Glad I can help you out. So everything I used in the video, I will have in the description below. So if you guys want to support the channel, click the link in the description below to pick up some merch. You can get one of these shirts, you can get one of these hats, and yeah, like always, I'll catch you guys on the next ride.